Hello, this is Michael Hexter, and welcome to Politics 2100 here on YouTube. So this episode I'm calling Biden's supposed behind-the-scenes strategy to pressure Netanyahu is deadly complicity with genocide. So Joe Biden and also other Western leaders like Emmanuel Macron and Rishi Sunak, as well as the opposition in Britain, Keir Starmer, the Labour Party leader, they've all chosen a "we stand with Israel" stance, and with, in other words, unconditional support for Israel. Now, with some, you could say, sort of wisps of moral, doubts or moral, flags, so to speak, but that are not attached to any particular condition for a change in policy, which is the crucial part. So in other words, showboating. So basically, Biden saying, well, international. The rules of war should be obeyed. Meanwhile, the rules of war aren't obeyed. Okay, so there's anyway. So but other than that, all of these resolutions and also the UN resolution calling for a ceasefire, voting against it, voting against urgent humanitarian aid package in the UN as well. So basically voting in lockstep with Israel at the UN, as are some other countries. But the most important countries are, number one, the United States, and then way down below, Great Britain, France, and Germany. In any case, this lockstep approach is sold to us by the sort of sidebars that Biden puts in, and also his supposed nice guy reputation, as being, that he's really working behind the scenes, like he met, and Blinken met, they did meet for a long time with the war cabinet in Israel, but we haven't really seen any changes in the brutality of the Israeli military's response, especially with regard to using bombing and white phosphorus, shutting off electricity, telecommunications most recently. So we don't see any concrete changes in the policy. And I, frankly, don't see the need for the U.S. to act as if they're scared of Netanyahu and scared of or Jewish voters in the United States if they don't put some limit on the rampaging of the Israeli army and the military response to the Hamas attacks of October the 7th. And so it's treating people as emotional infants, okay, and treating Jews and Israelis and the Israeli government as emotional infants that are need to be coddled in some sense and humored, so to speak. So we need to humor them. Meanwhile, we have in the recent past George Bush expressing some concerns about the peace process in Israel and Palestine. So in other words, contrasting the great blunderer in American foreign policy, George Bush, with Joe Biden in this matter. Bush sounds more prudent in a way, and what's furthermore baffling is that Netanyahu is in an alliance with is a virtually a religious fanatic. He's not. He's a secular person, but his coalition is bolstered by a series of religious fanatic parties that are have delusional ideas or based on their reading of the Bible about the entitlement of Israelis to all of the land in the area, a greater Israel. Okay, and therefore entirely wiping out the Palestinian presence in that area somehow. Expelling them or killing them. I don't know. Anyway, so he is of a political orientation that is not Biden's orientation, and so he could be treated also as while he's in another country, so you can't apply your ideology to that country per se. He doesn't have to tie U.S. foreign policy to these madmen, okay, who are running the Israeli government and the Israeli military, and so it's very, very frustrating, and also it's frustrating as a Bernie supporter or former Bernie supporter in 2016 and 2020 to see Bernie Sanders being so hesitant to subscribe to the ceasefire idea. And I mean, I think, now I'm a supporter of ceasefire now. I think there also needs to be an additional international law demand put in there. In other words, that war crimes need to be prosecuted and so forth and so on. That would add to the ceasefire idea that there needs to be some reckoning for people who committed war crimes. Now, unfortunately, and I'm going to do another video about this, both the U.S. and Israel are serial war crimes committers and serial violators of international law, and they treat international law as a conspiracy against their national interests, and Israel's national interests, and they are and they just ignore it in most cases unless it suits their political interests. Okay, which is not rule of law. Okay, so anyway, this working behind the scenes, and it's also politically for Joe Biden, it's a disaster, because people, especially for young people who are learning about how devastated Gaza is. I'm trying to say it right. I don't know if I said it right, but how they're seeing images of it, and so they are lumping Biden with this destruction, as are Arab Americans, okay, or many Arab Americans, so who are getting this information as well, okay, if they watch Al Jazeera, so and so on, which is also on TV, it's on cable, it's not social media per se, but anyway, so this is a enormous strategic blunder, both for domestic politics but also international politics, and also just pure on a fundamental moral level. Now, and it's grating to me and to many people how there is a pantomime of being moral and being and being the good guys while being the bad guys, or while supporting the bad guys, and it creates a great deal of strain, okay, for people to literally have to in November 2024 decide between, let's say, if Biden continues to be the likely nominee of the Democrats, decide between this this enormous hypocrite and war criminal, essentially, or war criminal by association or accessory to war crimes, who has some policies that are better for people in some ways, is a half-hearted fighter for some good things while at the same time fighting for and slipping in bad things and things that are destructive and are not just this war. But anyway, but he will be facing Donald Trump, the worst president in the history of the United States, likely in November 2024. So it creates a great deal of strain. Okay, and this is something that is a feature of the American political system. It's not a bug, and so the choice of the lesser evil. But we actually don't need to commit yet to that lesser evil. And that's something that's, I've talked about in previous episodes, the need for a robust primary, and also for Biden to adhere to his original proposal that he would only serve one term. Though the prospect of Kamala Harris becoming president or being the Democratic nominee is very frightening, given that she is really, she has, an interesting background. She, she's someone who, sort of from her family background, so forth and so on. But unfortunately, she is just someone with a tin ear for politics, for people, for and has an arrogance that is unsuitable for a politician. Even though I could be, her fans would accuse me of being no, I'm not really talking about the things I'm talking about who she is as a real person. I am just looking at her. I'm prejudiced against her. I'm not. I am a big advocate of, among other things, AOC running for president. I have been, and I think actually she should probably do it now. It may be too late to get on the ballot for her. But I'm desperate for a better alternative than Joe Biden. So she has some of the characteristics of Kamala Harris. So I'm not, that totally falls flat with me, okay, about who, I'm against someone like Kamala Harris because of her. Anyway, putting that aside, that's a sidebar. This strategy of being, of fearing either the American Jewish community, the Israel lobby, or Israel itself, and the crazed Israeli government, and this man who's trying to escape, Netanyahu is trying to escape legal charges, in other words, corruption charges, which would put him in jail. Okay, he's been working on that for a long time. So a war is just his cup of tea, and basically having this alliance of Western governments saving Netanyahu and maybe installing him as essentially a fascist dictator. He's already a fascist, but really giving him dictatorial powers during wartime. And the Knesset is working on a bill that would allow the shooting of protesters, Israeli protesters, against the war or against the policy of the government. This Biden is owning this. Okay, he is attaching himself to that. And it's just stupid. It is just politically idiotic. Okay, it's not just idiotic. It's inhumane, and also Biden's remarks. So another episode is Biden questioning the death totals that the Gaza Ministry of Health put out. it's not really for him to do that. Okay, he could also question. There's propaganda on both sides of this conflict, but there are certain realities that are very, very hard to whitewash or to blot out. The killing, the deaths, people who were documented as living and who are no longer living, bodies, and the pictures that the Israeli Defense Ministry puts out of bombed out, parts of Gaza, these buildings that are in total ruin, there's rubble strewn all over the place. They're copping to that. They're showing this is what we did with our jets or our artillery or our missiles. So, this is and Biden and Macron and Sunak and Schultz and von der Leyen from the EU, they're owning this. This is their war. Okay, they have chosen this war. Okay, they haven't said no, we won't go along with you. Endangering Netanyahu, possibly getting a vote of no confidence, possibly getting another government in Israel, so they can deal with this in an adult way, in a mature way, not in this emotion-driven reign, R-A-I-N, reign of hate, of missiles, reign of aggression, reign of death. And that would require a change of government. There's no way the Netanyahu government, they need to be, the Likud needs to be out of the coalition. And so, or there needs to be some grand coalition that totally, and Netanyahu no longer prime minister, and some other party being the, forming the administration, and the effect of the far right. Now the far right is not, they likely wouldn't be part of that. They are racists, fascists, and Judeo-fascists, Jewish supremacists. And so they are, and which is close to white supremacy, which is, even though there's this, Jewishness is sort of floats in this racial terms in some way or another. It's not specifically located as in this sort of colorist spectrum. But anyway, so this strategy is just it's not working. And the delays in Israel doing a ground offensive, to me, it seems like, maybe, I don't know which one is the ground offensive. If is going to lead to more Israeli deaths, which is bad. It might lead to less civilian Gazan deaths. I don't know, but so its delay is not so great from the point of view of civilian deaths and war crimes related to indiscriminate bombing of Gaza or the West Bank. So anyway, so there's almost no sign that this strategy is working, and frankly, I don't think Biden owes Netanyahu anything. I don't think I think he just, at least on the surface, maybe deep down. Again, I did a video earlier where I talked about how, in a way, there is this alliance based on indebtedness, on being corrupted, politicians corrupted by the military-industrial complex, so they need to sort of huddle together. But frankly, we need to bust out of that in the United States. We need to while I think the United States should arm Ukraine, so I'm not totally against any use of arms anywhere, and I think Ukraine's independence needs to be protected. But the blank check given to the arms industry, and the fact that the arms industry is driving some policies and some the war, the beating the war drums against China, so forth and so on. There needs to be civilian control over and political and public control over the arms industries of the world, not just the United States, in China, in that needs to happen. Okay, right now, with the preference for military buildup and shows of force and so forth and so on, it seems as though, or it not only seems as though, the policy is driven by constant upping the ante in the area of more weapons and higher tech weapons, so forth and so on. So that whole process of, I think it's the Red Queen running to stay in place, and so forth and so on. So that, or the tit for tat, or you could say it's the spiral of threat, tit for tat. Anyway, that needs to stop. So that involves civilian control over foreign policy, and also specifically to reduce the number of arms in the world as a trend overall. As I say, again, there are certain places where arms are needed. Israel doesn't need any more arms. And what Israel needs is a political process. And I'll talk about it in a future episode, a proposal I have for, again, out of the pocket, back of the envelope proposal for what might be done there to resolve that issue, or a process, let's say the beginning of a process to resolve that issue. Anyway, I look forward to looking at share your thoughts or reactions to what I said today, your arguments for and against, and also please like the video if you got something out of it. Please subscribe to Politics 2100, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks.